On the third line of the paragraph that begins on page Lamed Ches, Omnam. And we spent a goodly time and hopefully effort with some kind of a benefit explaining the subtle assumption that the Rebbe is presenting, and that is that even though the Eitz Chaim, according to the question of the Eitz Chaim, it appears that the sphirot hagnuzos, as they are in their original abode in the Ayin Seif, are representative of the Kav, as it appears after the tzimtzum. This would be like Gilui HaHelem, and there's no effect on the Kav, on the sphirot hagnuzos in their source, in order to provide for the Kav. That's what it appears from the Eitz Chaim. Nonetheless, we have to assume that there is some kind of a tzimtzum from the sphirot hagnuzos, as it turns out to be in the Kav. This we discussed yesterday. I hope we have it. We can bring it back up. Yes.
A quick question about. Are you done with the introduction, or?
Well, if it's necessary, I'll continue. If not, otherwise, we should have this introduction on our own. Go ahead.
You said you went back yesterday about talking about the Gilui HaHelem and how Machshava, we were using that originally as a mashal for Gilui HaHelem. We're still using that as a mashal for Gilui HaHelem, just we're realizing that the Gilui HaHelem has this element of like tzimtzum, but in a different way. Or we're just saying, or we said that Machshava is not the mashal for Gilui HaHelem at all.
No, Machshava is a mashal for Gilui
Okay,
HaHelem.
fine.
But
it
explained to us that even though it's Gilui HaHelem, there is an element of tzimtzum there.
So make sure.
But it is Machshava, it's not the same as it is in essence. Okay, at the end of the third line, and what we are going to aim to explain, how is it that we said there is no tzimtzum because it's a Gilui HaHelem, and at the same time we say, but there is a tzimtzum. Ayin and hu. However, the principle in this is the lefi shitozu, that according to this line, meaning the line of that the Eitz Chaim presents, there's sphirot hagnuzos hein shorosh ha'oros, that the sphirot hagnuzos, this is the root of the oros, umisham nimsha hakav, and from there comes the kav. What is this alluding to? This shito, that the sphirot hagnuzos in shorosh ha'oros. What else can it be? So I'm going to explain it. I hope we are still holding on to the string over here. We're not going to get lost. Sphirot hagnuzos means this is the sphirot as they are incorporated and contained within the Ayin Seif. We know that there is sphirot hagnuzos. There are different ways to interpret the result of the sphirot hagnuzos. One way is to say that the sphirot hagnuzos, this is the shorosh hakelim, because it's sphirot. They're the definitive presences. But according to to what we're learning, and it's Chaim, that Eshes Sphirot HaGnuzis is Shoresh HaOyer. What's the difference when you say Shoresh HaKelim and Shoresh HaOyer? The difference in very simple terms. If it's Shoresh HaKelim, then we can understand that there is a tzimtzum between the source and that, because the kelim are not in the same vein as it is in the Shoresh. But if you say that there is Shorosh HaOyer means that the oil, this is the same oil as it is in the source. And yet we said that has to have been a tzimtzum. How can we rectify, so to speak, this seeming contradiction? If it's Shorosh HaOyer, oil means that it is a reflective of its source. And at the same time, no, it's not completely reflective. There's a tzimtzum between the source and the source. So according to this sheet, that Eshes Sphirot HaGnuzis hein Shorosh HaOyros, they're the roots of the oiros. Umisham nimshech hakav, and from there is drawn the kav, which means it requires that, as we said, therefore it has to be understood that there has to be some kind of a tzimtzum between Eshes Sphirot HaGnuzis and the kav. How is it the oiros? Oiros is reflective of its source completely. Sorry, Chleimer. Do I have you with me?
I'm not getting the significance of this Shorosh HaOyros. Somewhere I didn't quite get any something. Could be that I just missed a few words. I didn't get the explanation between the Keli. You're contrasting the different perspectives that you could have on the.
Look, there's oiros. We can, so to speak, conceivably say that the entire mitzvahs of the world, of the kav, and the definitive presences and all that, is all due to the effect of the tzimtzum on the oiros. Yes, sir. I'm getting myself into a real stew.
In this problematic we're building now, my question is, could there be oiros after the tzimtzum?
Well, that's what the oiros is coming after the tzimtzum.
Okay.
The oiros come from the oiros, that's what we said. Of course, the oiros after the tzimtzum.
Okay.
Of course,
that's what we're talking about now.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about now. Oil, as we said many times, oil is reflective, always connected to its source. In contrast to the kelim, which becomes a separate mitzvah. Now we're saying that the source of these oiros is the Eshes Sphirot HaGnuzis. And on top of that, we're saying it's Eshes Sphirot HaGnuzis, but it goes through a tzimtzum before it becomes a kav. And yet it's oil, it's not kelim, which means it's still reflective of its source. It's still Gilei HaHelam. How do we correlate and unite these two principles? That this is oil, which means it is Gilei HaHelam, and at the same time it goes through a tzimtzum.
What is that adding to the previous? Is it adding anything to the previous? I'm sure it is, but what is it adding to the previous statement that said that said v'imkein eichu looking as Gilei HaHelam gam mishorish v'nekora? It sounds like the same thing. In other words, say if there's a tzimtzum, how can it be Gilei HaHelam? Now we're saying if it's a shorish for the or, it's how can it be that it's still or even though there's a tzimtzum?
Right. It's the same thing, except these words Fishito Zu, that's what I'm using, Shorosha Ha'oiros, is an allusion to the original the original difference of opinion.
Did we see the difference of opinion? Was that something that we didn't?
We did not specifically state
The difference of opinion being the sphirot I can use is whether the source of the kelim or the source of the
right.
or.
It was mentioned, I think, here someplace before, but this was just mentioned quickly, by the way. But according to what we are learning here, is that this is Rosh Hashanah. Oil, as we said, I'm repeating what I said. Oil has to remain the same as it continues on, otherwise it's not called oil. So we understand that this is a very, very fine and very important principle. You understand this?
Is the emphasis on how can it still be or after the tzimtzum, or is the emphasis on how can the or come from the sphirot I can use?
How can it be oil, which means that the oil of Moses, and even though it goes through a tzimtzum after the sphirot
I'm sure
Let's
it
just
sounds exactly like the same. How can it be Gilui Helen?
That's right. Let's just continue on. We'll have a chance to again revisit these principles. So, according to this sheet, we have to say the be'emes that in truth אינו אידוי מהצמצום דאויר האינסוף והצמצום שבשאירו שהוא מוקר הקו. Okay, here we really have to try to hold on to the rope. The tzimtzum that takes place in the sphirot to provide for the kav which is the Shorosh Mokir HaKav, is not similar to the tzimtzum that takes place in the mitzamtzum, the oil in Seif itself. V'hainu, all right, and there's a parenthesis over here. We can either say it or skip it.
It's not clear because there's no closing of the parenthesis. Does the parenthesis finish at hour? The closing Of the parentheses?
Gimli Odom. Yeah, there should be a second, a double parenthesis, a closing parenthesis there.
Oh, so there's two parentheses. After the word or there should be a closing sign of the parenthesis, the first parenthesis.
You said after other there should be two.
Right.
Actually, it looks like one long parenthesis all the way to the next page.
No, look, it ends here.
Yeah.
That goes with this one.
Yeah. No, because there's another.
Yeah, it makes sense because it's you skip everything.
Yeah. See. Where's the opening of this one? Here. Because there's another opening here.
That's what you hear this one?
Oh?
You hear this one?
What?
It looks like the parenthesis actually ends over here.
How about down here?
Yeah.
That goes with this one.
Yes, you're right. That's where it ends. And as a matter of fact, we're going to jump right there. Because this is, maybe we'll come back. This is that's right. This is a direct connect to that. I once identified it and then, so we said that the tzimtzum that was in the Ayin Soif is not similar to the tzimtzum that affected the sphirot agnosis to create the oil. And what is the difference? The tzimtzum shehoyo ba'Ayin Soif hu b'mchinas siluk v'yisalmus l'gamri. That the tzimtzum that took place that affected the Ayin Soif is a tzimtzum that results in a siluk v'yisalmus l'gamri, in removing completely the Ayin Soif, totally concealing the Ayin Soif. Creating a situation like there was no Ayin Soif. Masha Ein came. In contrast, however, that a tzimtzum that applies to the Sheder Shemokir Hakav, it's a different kind of a tzimtzum. It's not a tzimtzum that says that we are going for new, we are going to create something completely new. Completely eliminate the original state.
So in the second one, the or is never completely removed.
That's right. So that when that which results after the tzimtzum is not a totally new aspect, it is drawn from the oil that preceded the tzimtzum. We will learn the kitzur, but right now I'd like to go a little bit ahead so we have a little bit our bearings. The principle in this is we've explained previously the B'Sheirish Umokir HaKav, that when you talk about the source of the Kav, as the Kav is in that level, that it is kolul, included and incorporated in the Ayin Soif, yesh shom sphirot. There are there in the source sphirot, even though they're included in the Ayin Soif, but they're already identifiable 10 sphirot. Vehein sphirot hagmuzis b'ma'atzilon, and this is what we call sphirot hagmuzis, that are contained within the source. Ve'inyan shehein gnuzis v'nei alomis b'Ayin Soif. What is the principle if we say that they are contained, gnuzis, they're stored away and can see concealed within the Ein Sof. Hainu, it means Shehen Klulim U'Miyochadim Bei, that they are incorporated and united with it. She'einon bebchinas mitzias li'atzmo, which means they are not in the state of a independent presence. Liyas bebchinas mitzias nikeres b'fnei atzmo, so that we can speak of them as an identifiable presence on their own. B'mitzias chochma or bina, in something, a presence of chochma or bina. Okay, so here is where we need to kind of, this is what's called dissecting a thin thread. We're saying that there are sphirot, and they're called sphirot agnuzit ma'atzilut. And these are the sphirot that ultimately constitute the kav of the sphirot of Chochmah and Bina. And they are contained within the Ein Sof. The principle that they are contained in the Ein Sof does not mean that they're stashed in there like in a container. Rather, that they're one with the Ein Sof itself. They're one with the Ein Sof itself. They are not identifiably presences on their own. Like you can identify this is Chochmah, this is Bina. We'll go a little further. Certainly we're going to revisit this. Ukmoy ha-nefesh, just like the nefesh. Shekelel es bo kol ha-koichois. The nefesh incorporates all the koichois. The kol mokoim, and yet still ha-nefesh achas hi. I skipped a phrase. The sphirot are not adding anything to the Ein Sof. It's not that there is two things, the Ein Sof and there are the sphirot. They are part and parcel of the Ein Sof. Ukmoy ha-nefesh. The motion for this for us is like the nefesh. Shekolel es bo kol ha-koichos, that incorporates within itself all the koichos. Mikol mokoim yas still ha-nefesh achas hi. The nefesh is one. The nefesh is totally as one. I want to give a kind of a means by which we can, in our limited thought process, now limited seichel, and yet be able to relate to this kind of a contradictory, self-contradictory statement. There's 10 spheres. They contain in the Ein Sof, but contain in the Ein Sof means that they're one with the Ein Sof. If they're one with the Ein Sof, so there's nothing there. I'm going to take some time on this, and because these are subtle things and important things. Something which we have discussed, we have plenty of room to be able to get into, and I have further other means of showing it.
So before we start, so we are saying Ace sphirot like Nuzos are internal or external to Or Ein Sof?
Internal.
We're not debating that.
No. That's what Gnuzis. Gnuzis means that it contained within the Ein Sof.
Okay.
No, we're not even. They're saying that the sphirot are Gnuzis, they contain within the Ein Sof. And the meaning of their containing is not contained as a separate identifiable presence, but they are part and parcel of the Ein Sof. So how are they contained? Ein Sof, we said, defies the infant spheres. So from one thing, I'm going to use the illustration that we've used many times of the dining room table within the dining room. And we said many times, I think that we all want to relate to this, that if you have a dining room, the dining room is a dining room prior to putting the dining room table in there physically. And if you are in the dining room, you can immediately kind of appoint the place where the dining room table stands, even before it's there. But it's not there. Let's investigate this statement. When you say you can appoint the place where the dining room table will stand, is that identified by the dining room table, or is it identified by the dining room itself? Hello? Huh?
The dining room itself.
So is there a table in there or is not a table?
In a certain sense, there's already a table in there.
In a certain sense, and through the dining room itself. Not because you're seeing the table itself. You're seeing the dining room. So this is a means for us to relate to these words. That as a spheres are as a spheres. But they're part and parcel of the Ein Sof. They're not a presence on their own. They're there not because they're there, but because the Ein Sof is there. Just like the dining room table is there, not because the table is there, but because the dining room is there. I think we are past our time. Okay, at least we got some handle on this. Ultimately.